Are you ready for your window shoppers to become paying customers? Ecwid e-commerce is here to make that happen. We can help you automatically show the exact product visitors saw but didn't purchase on your site wherever they go on Facebook and Instagram using this magic called dynamic Facebook retargeting. To show these ads to your prospects today, sign up in your Ecwid control panel in the marketing section and look for the Facebook remarketing app. This is fully integrated into Ecwid and Facebook and so simple and effective you'll wonder why you hadn't done this sooner. Okay, back to the show. Hey guys, this is Jesse Ness with the Ecwid e-commerce show. Wanted to do a little intro to this podcast, let you know we had a little bit of audio issues, so you can't hear the guest quite as well at the very end, but we had such a good conversation and shared so many good tips and tricks that we wanted to leave it in there and keep the conversation organic. So I hope you enjoy the show, and now back to the show.
This is the Ecwid e-commerce show with your host, Jesse Ness, along with Richard O'Tay.
Richie, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We're back again.
Back again, another podcast. I'm excited about it.
It's fun, you know. I mean, we love helping Ecwid users, and we're always looking for someone using Ecwid in a unique way. And I think we found one.
Yeah, you know, interestingly, we had some merchants on recently, and people were telling their story, and I think that caused a kind of a rush of people submitting their information to the bottom of ecwid.com/podcast because we actually had several people submit, and I had to actually choose between them. So, you know, that's a new thing, and so today's guest is more of an interesting case because normally we have people that are pure e-commerce, we'd say, where like their website is literally goes into the products they're selling. And so today I'd say it's different. We have a coach, mentor, and then e-commerce is a very small piece of the puzzle. But interestingly enough, I might say, oh, that's not pure e-commerce. Well, that's probably a lot of the Ecwid base out there where people have maybe it's very blog heavy, or maybe it's heavy on whatever they're doing, and then there's just one little shop section. So
they're I should be selling something to this audience I have.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that's their journey is they've built this whole following, and they're telling people how many followers and things they have, and then someone's like, "Well, how much money do you make?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I should probably sell something on here too." So
get some affluence along with that influence.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, and also if our guest was probably doing that and then, you know, sold like an ebook for, how to win at blackjack, it probably wouldn't have made the cut. So, so let's bring on our guest and she can tell her story. Antionette, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you being on the show. And your website is visionarynurse.com?
Yep, that's it. That is what I focus in. That's my realm. I'm all about taking that visionary approach and using my vision to help elevate others.
Awesome. So give us your story. So obviously, you must be a nurse?
Yes, I am. I guess gather that from the website, although some people may not be able to gather that. But yes, I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner by trade. Nursing was my second degree. Education was my first, and always had this passion for blending health and education in some unique way to better serve my patients and to improve access to care. And so through a series of events, I found myself branding myself as the visionary nurse and working as a consultant and a coach and mentor for nurses.
All right. So coaching and mentor for nurses. So how, go into more detail on that. So I'm a nurse. I need a mentor. How do I know I need a mentor, and what kind of mentorship would you provide?
Right. So I guess to answer that question, a lot of it kind of comes from the backstory of how I got into it to begin with. Okay. I wasn't intending on getting into a small business or even necessarily holding a small little shop, as you mentioned, or having some, Ecwid use in order to launch something, but it ended up happening that way through a series of events. As a nurse practitioner, I was always very focused on community health as well, and wanting to see more beyond just the clinical setting, beyond what I could do in that short 15-minute span of time. And I'm sure you've experienced that. You go into your provider, they check off some boxes at times, and then you leave and you have to figure out where to go from there. And I wanted it to be more. I wanted to increase that access to care. And so I made this big leap and relocated to a rural town to find a way to utilize my skill set as a nurse practitioner, but on the community level. But through my networking and getting a chance to really understand what was happening in the local area, I recognized from the conversations that they needed something that I had. I just didn't know that I had what they needed. And so a piece of that came down to talking a lot about burnout and staff turnover and how to equip nurses to be better leaders and innovators. And I realized this journey that I was on by default, or maybe by design, I guess, as a result of having a hard time finding something that fit the mold for my nurse practitioner degree, I had to find and create something else. And so I launched this coach and mentorship for nurses business where I focused on formally creating a strategic plan for nurses who want to think innovatively about using their nursing skill set. So whether it be, beyond the bedside is a way to put it. You want to write a book. You want to find a unique way to provide access to care. You might want to start a clinic. It might just be about creating videos on social media so others can learn how to survive nursing school. It was just really finding that way to say there is more to nursing than maybe what you see on TV. And I might be able to help you walk through that process so that you can ultimately be sustainable for yourself, but also create a new way to interface with the people that you want to help and care for.
Okay, that really helps. Yeah, because I understand it where you might think, most people that are listening right now be thinking like, oh yeah, I went to the doctors and the nurse is the person that helps you out with various different things and that's it, right? And you're basically, the thing I was thinking of as this basically allows every nurse that you work with to essentially scale, right? Beyond the 15 minutes they have with a patient, they want to do more, and this allows them to scale in kind of whatever direction they want. It sounds like you don't necessarily have here's the course you must follow. It's more, tell me what you want to do, and I can help you get there.
I think you nailed it spot on. I think you should be my marketer, actually. And that's a perfect way of putting it. It's really saying, you know what, we all can create a vision and a plan, and we can utilize our skill set and seeing nursing and what you learn as a tool and not only just your profession, and also to not necessarily limiting it to what you think you should be doing, but really honing in on what are your passions in addition to this and how can you best utilize it so that you feel that you're not stuck when you need to pivot. And I'm sure everyone kind of runs into that place where, you know what, I need to redefine myself, but I just don't know how. And, for a lot of nurses, a lot of times it might just mean switching departments, or, maybe I work in the ICU and I need to work in the ER, or I need to go from working with adults to children. But it's even looking one step further beyond that and say, you know what, maybe I could be a nurse and be in business, or I could be a motivational speaker. How do I need to think about that? What are some of the steps that I might need to practically take? But also, too, how can I show that there are lots of ways to influence healthcare beyond, maybe, inserting an IV or taking a temperature?
Yeah, and you're leading by example here, too, because you realized you thought you knew what exactly you were going to do, and then you took a leap. You moved to a rural thought I'd be able to speak here being a podcaster, rural town. And all of a sudden you realize what you thought you were going to do transformed. But that's the nature of an entrepreneur. You set out with a goal, you start to do things, and then until you're actually doing the things, you don't really know what's going to pop up. You think you know what your market is, but your market started to talk to you and tell you, it sounds like, well, we're needing these other things. We need to learn more about what you're actually doing now, not this other thing. And so, it's one of the beauties of Ecwid and why we were excited about having you on is we don't want to always have the same merchant on talking about the same thing, following the same process, because no entrepreneur actually ever does follow that same path. And what I wanted to know, just to bring it back to Ecwid for a moment here, is at what point did you start to realize I kind of saying the same thing over and over again, and I need to put this down in some format where I can get them to go download this book or buy this book. So although I can tell in your voice you have a passion and you would gladly say it over and over again, at what point did you realize, hey, it's probably a good idea for me to get this down on paper, get it down digitally, and get it to people.
Right. No. And I think it's you definitely, again, you guys you're good at determining what people need to know, but it's just that I'm passionate about it one way or the other. But I recognized that in order for me to reach more people, because it seemed like there were several and it just continued nurses that kept wanting to hear this, how can I help people access this, whether they can contact me or not? And so I think when I first started off in this journey, a portion of it, again, entrepreneurship wasn't on my first track. And like you mentioned, it was definitely leading by example in many ways. I relocated to start a community health initiative, and I didn't think it was about starting a business. It was just about wanting to do something innovative in terms of providing healthcare, whether through workshops, whether through interfacing with students on vision plans, or working within the local library to find ways to better manage illnesses and chronic diseases. I found out that, maybe I could reflect on my process. And a lot of it also came from just a lot of rejections, trying to figure out what to do, or just feeling a lot of resistance or pushback. And so I started writing down these notes of, and my ebook that I have it's called Visionary Nurse, 90 Days of Inspirational Musings on Being Influentially Visionary. But I just started reflecting on, how do I process and deal with this completely brand new thing that I never thought I would see myself doing, or maybe I saw myself doing, but just didn't think it would be executed this way. And so I just kept writing and writing. And my husband would tell me, you need to do something with this. You need to publish this. There are people that I think can benefit from this. And I was like, well, maybe I'll post the blogs on social media, or maybe I'll figure out another avenue. But how do I know someone's really going to want what I have to say? And he's like, if people are calling you, asking you for your advice on this very thing, they want to know what you have to say. And so, the light bulb went on, for lack of a better, term, because it's Visionary Nurse, but it was just thinking, this could be something that could benefit more people. And if this is really about not only just improving access to care in your area, but influencing other people to be visionary in their approach, you potentially have an opportunity to transform the landscape of health, not only in yourself and in your area, but for tons of other people. So it still took a little bit of time to go from, I can do this, I'm going to put these thoughts down, I think it's worth putting into a product. And actually, on a very transparent level, one thing that really pushed me was that after the birth of our second son, I had a pretty near-death experience. And after coming through that, I said to myself, if you have life again, then you have no reason to hold yourself back from doing what you need to do. If you're really going to be visionary, sometimes you have to just get over the fear and go for it. And so I decided to take this compilation of thoughts and reflections and just inspirational musings, for lack of a better term, on being visionary and being able to impact healthcare, and compile it in a way that it would be tangible for other people to utilize it and to be innovative themselves. And sure enough, I launched it, and it's probably been the best thing that I could have ever done, not only for this business that I'm trying to scale, but for other nurses who are looking to have some direction and some support in being visionary leaders themselves.
Wow, that's awesome. It's a very inspirational story, and I think it kind of speaks to a lot of things, but I can see it from for me, attaching it into the online world. Rich is more the emotional one. He's going to probably get mushy. But for me, I'm more of the facts side. I'm like, so you went from a place where you were able to talk to people one-on-one on this, and maybe you did some workshops and some speeches and such, but now taking this online and then taking it to a book, you're able to affect such a wide amount of people. Like, have people, you must have customers all over the world, all over the country, right, that are giving you positive feedback on this. Like, are you feeling that like you can tell that it's made a difference for people's lives?
Absolutely. And it definitely, on a business side, has been great visibility, where I was creating a market that I didn't exist in before. This is a talking point. And so it launched me into platforms that I could have gotten organically and naturally, but it would have taken a lot longer. And so now there are people literally from all over the world that can take this and utilize it. In general, there's 2.38 billion or million nurses. Sorry, billion's probably over the top, but million nurses worldwide. So that's a huge market to reach. And there's this huge push for nurses right now in understanding leadership and innovation. And the World Health Organization just declared the year 2020 as the year of midwife. So there's this upsurge of nurses as innovators and as leaders and as thought leaders in certain spaces to be able to train even just their sphere of influence where they may not have resided before. So on a practical sense, really helped give me a speaking place. So meet the author events or web workshops, as you mentioned, leadership conferences, and being able to take this very tangible thing, utilize it as a product that someone can take home and say, I can use this, build my own platform wherever I am.
So I have a question for you. So first off, thank you for that. That actually provides a little bit of insight as to why I'm going to ask this question now. So the book gave you a platform. You get to speak on other stages. You have access to get in front of these people. There's people who want to hear more from you now that used to maybe never even know that you were even doing something like this. We want to be able to help offer you some advice. But I want to know a little bit about what the main product is. What helps you most? Does it help you most to move the book so you get people on an email list and you market your coaching to the email list? Do you want to get this book in front of other speaking associations or nursing associations so you can get on more stages? I'm sure you would also say all the above sounds great, but what's the main goal and what would help you most? And we'll kind of give you a couple techniques and then let you get back to your vision.
Right. No. So I definitely, that latter option is probably where I see evolving more. I want to see it in academic institutions, associations, and really seeing it as a resource that can get to especially nurses in transition or in student nurses who are still trying to figure their journey out and know where to go next so that they have something tangible from the get-go. So I think that's probably, and even just making sure that I'm marketing in the right way in context, because, I need a for newbies in a lot of ways. I'm in the social media platform a lot. I'm creating videos. I am interfacing on Twitter a lot, LinkedIn, every, social media avenue that exists into word of mouth and finding opportunities that come my way, but really wanting to hone it in so that the right voices are getting it so that those voices can take it and market it to whatever their sphere of influence is. Because I can only do so much as one person, right? So I need to get to a big so that I'm not the only one making traffic, but also too, there are other people who are gravitating towards it that can leverage bigger audiences.
Got it. So it sounds like to me the ideal customer, if you will, and it's really a follower or a reader or whatever, but I'm using the word customer, but it's primarily, and so the good thing is I think you can actually target them fairly well. It would be maybe second-year nursing students or recent nursing graduates, perhaps. So, I mean, that allows you to, people put that on their LinkedIn profile, or they probably don't put that on Instagram necessarily, but I believe that there's probably a lot of ways to target people who are either in nursing school or just recent graduates of nursing. So would you say those are the primary people you want to influence first?
Right, definitely. That is a setting ground for those folks who need something moving forward in nursing career.
And then if you took that audience, is it fair to say you start to build a mailing list of them and or you're doing some sort of targeting campaign on LinkedIn or Facebook, then you could take that, build your audience, and then now also go to these associations and then maybe strategically target the people who run the event or create the events to actually then show them, oh, she has this following and she's got a passion for it. She wants to help. They're always looking for speakers, I'm sure, because, I'm not a nurse, but I'd imagine until you're doing something like what you're talking about, it's probably more or less the same conversation over and over again, but I'm not in it, so I don't know that for certain. So would you say like those would be the two main markets, like the person who's second year in and is trying to find their unique point in or their unique, I don't know what the exact
place
phrase.
in the world, maybe.
Yeah, their
or,
unique place in the space of nursing, and then also getting in front of those associations. Would those be the two main places you would like to get in front of?
Definitely. And I'm recognizing as it's moving forward that and kind of focusing even more so on the business that the nurses, like be the university level and incorporate into a curriculum, or it may mean a hospital orientation, orienting their nurse or going through the process of on is also included in that process, their new nurse.
Yeah. So, okay. So first I would ask, are you aware of like a Facebook pixel? Do you have your site? Do you have a pixel on your website that you could actually track people that have ever seen you on Facebook or seen your page that you could remarket to on Facebook?
I don't have that. No.
All right. So we'll make sure we get you the blog post on how to go through that whole procedure. It's pretty basic, but one of the things for sure, if you're driving people to your website, one of the things that you'd want to do is make sure that you can get your message back in front of those people one more time. So it's one of those things where you can't really go back in hindsight. So I'm sure you've driven a bunch of traffic there already, but moving forward, it's just one of those things that everybody should have this pixel put in place already. So the day you do decide to market, you could market to people who've already been to your website and may or may not have bought.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so definitely get the Facebook pixel on because there's a lot of things you can do with that too. You can build lookalike audiences. I do have a hunch though that the book is fairly inexpensive. The bookings that requires local, so it might not be sustainable for advertising. Just being honest, like it probably doesn't scale well for advertising because you need a high average value per customer. One thing I could see you doing here is like kind of taking this a little bit to the next level of, so you have a book and you speak, but I think there's this big middle ground in there, which would actually help, drive a following. And that would be like some sort of a mini course or, some sort of thing that can spread virally. So maybe it's hey, you're about to, graduate from nursing school. Have you considered your options for the future? Like take this 10-question quiz to, help put you in a certain category. I don't know. Like you would need to figure that out. But some sort of thing that it's done fairly easily online. It's free and it's only targeted towards people that are either just about to graduate nursing school or have just recently graduated, and maybe that it helps them in some way. It's probably a smaller way than them meeting with you or reading the whole book, but at least it provides some little bit of value, and you get their email, and you start building a bigger list, and potentially spreads virally. Like if I've found value from this as a nursing student and I'm like, oh, that was really great. And I'm going to forward it to all the people in my class. And next thing you know, you have a list of 50 people from that one person on your email list.
Actually, that makes sense. And that's something that I haven't necessarily tried effectively, I think, is that in how to build the email list, because a lot of folks who are following what I'm doing, but I'm not capturing them effectively to keep them in a space or a bubble sphere that I can re-ask them again so that they think about what I'm offering. And the other piece is that I have recognized that I can expand my coaching services more remotely, and that there is even an audience to do virtual coaching, depending on, the situation or what's the principle or membership, like that. So you're definitely going in the direction where I feel like I need to go. It's just practically making that happen.
Yeah. And one of the things I would also recommend when it comes to the content creation is I mean, just the title alone, visionary nurse. Although I'm sure you sound very smart. I'm sure you know much more than Jesse and I as far as probably the human body and how things work and all that stuff. So, but you're also talking with another group of people that probably have a lot of the knowledge, right? The information. What I think would be unique when it comes to content creation for you, we have a never-ending debate around here, just podcasters in general, on what do you lead with? Like, do you lead with information? Do you educate people, or do you entertain people? And in the ultimate scenario, you want to do both, right? It's not like you want to do one or the other, but we also see part of why we pay so much to go to sporting events and these lot of people. There's people who are famous just for being famous, right? Kardashians right. And these different people that they're just entertaining. And so I tend to, if you can find what uniquely keeps people entertained to pay attention, the education will just kind of come with the territory. And I know that it's a never-ending debate. People will say it should be the other way. But when Jesse was mentioning viral, it made me think about this, because every single study that I can find when it comes to creating a viral video, I wish you could just say, this is the formula, but it can't really say that. But there has been 5 things that have come out of every viral video has one of these 5 things, and potentially if they have all the 5 things, it can even go more viral. And so one is adventure. And so a sense of adventure, a sense of taking someone on a journey. So you just sharing your journey, sharing the process, almost like you're documenting what's going on and this whole thing. There'll be nurses that'll jump on board just because of that. That's one of them. Comedy. And although you probably couldn't go into a lot of detail and you couldn't mention the people, I'm sure there's all kinds of comedic stories when it comes to nursing. So I would definitely think about that. Obviously, you're going to know where that fine line is more than I, as far as where you should and shouldn't do that. But I'm sure there's all kinds of funny stories.
Right.
Third is like emotion. So just moving people emotionally, and it just, your story alone has that in it. And, back to the same thing, I probably wouldn't go into particular stories, but holy moly, of course, there's a lot of stories that are emotional when it comes to nursing. Fourth would be inspirational. So your story alone, again, there's going to be tons of stories of inspiration in nursing. And then the last one is basically going to be surprise. And even though it might not seem like it on the surface, I think there would be all kinds of stories of surprise, right? That could be just the story that ended a different way than you thought it was going to end. It was a terminal cancer story and it turned out like this, right? But you could also see how when you see those other 4 in front of that, you might be going down the path of the perfect recipe to be able to cover all 5 of these. Kind of documenting your story, sharing funny stories that have happened, emotional stories that have happened, inspirational stories that have happened, outcomes that you didn't think were going to happen that happened. I mean, like, you literally, I'm getting chills just thinking of it, but it's also, we really do like helping people. So like I get excited just talking about it with you. I really think you have a perfect recipe if you just kind of focused on those 2 things for now. First off, kudos on just you being you, because the one thing that Jesse and I definitely agree on, because sometimes we agree on multiple things, but this thing we do, is one of the few things that no one can beat you at, if not the only thing that no one can beat you at, is you being you. And it sounds like you're very much stepping into just you being you. And the whole lesson is, how can I help these other nurses do what they want to do while they're being them? And so if you kind of gather that community on social, focus on that email list, and also focus in how can you create these pieces of content in a way that gets you a group of following of those same nurses, say that the second year or whatever that ends up being, that is your perfect target market there. There's no doubt that now you're going to be a voice in that community of nurses, and it's just going to naturally you're going to lead a trail back to your LinkedIn, and associations are going to be reaching out to you because they're going to see that same content on there. And I just think it's a perfect storm for you.
Right. No, and I appreciate every single word that you've shared, and it's incredibly humbling to get this knowledge from you, because that's you have to get into a place where you don't know everything, and you really need other people to support you in order to execute whatever you're trying to do. So everything you've said is incredibly helpful, but also too, just I appreciate the validation in knowing it's okay to you. It's okay to be okay in terms of where you're going and what you're doing. So this is really valuable information.
Yeah, I would say
invaluable information.
I would say not only
other way.
Yeah, sorry for stepping on you there. I would say not only is it important, I actually think it probably is the only way to do it. And, forget, I won't get into political and or religious beliefs, but let's just say at least for thousands of years, if not multiple thousands of years, if you stood out from the tribe, you got kicked out of the tribe. And now if you don't stand out, you can't build a tribe. And so keep it up. I reached out on LinkedIn to you too, so you'll see me on there. Go ahead and at your leisure if you want to connect. We can go in more, but we'll definitely get you some more information on building the list and the Facebook pixel too.
Yeah, for sure. Building the list, Antionette. Like we want those emails. You might have to give away some freebies on the book here and there, but the email is going to be worth it because you can communicate to them for multiple years, particularly if they're early on in their career. Maybe 5 years later, they're ready to hear your message. Maybe at first they were just like, I have my college loans to pay, so I'm just going to work and suck it up. But after 4 or 5 years, they are that burnt out stage that you mentioned. And then they're like, boy, I keep following this Instagram profile with these awesome stories. Like, I'm ready. So
yeah. And I would just toss on one thing on top of that, because Jesse just actually said a really good point that I'm surprised I didn't say earlier, is I would even consider giving out the ebook to build the list and then just start upselling that list for the hard copy. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but then, then you can do print on demand and it's pretty easy. And then you're literally building your list a lot faster because you're giving that away. And then you just gifted something to them. So it's not actually that strange to then right after the fact email that list and say, hey, thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. I also have the hard copy coming out, blah, 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 blah. So you can it's really about building that community right now. We all know that nobody's really getting the house at the top of the hill from selling a book. It's really, the book is what gets you in front of other people to
the
make
new
the real
business
money.
card. The book is the new business card. So yeah.
Right. It's definitely my calling card, and it's given me spaces to talk in that I didn't necessarily have before, and even something physical to hold on to so that I can continue to be consistent in whatever I'm talking about. And even, I've definitely toyed around with that. Should I just release the entire ebook on its own as just a gift? Because before I did make a free download version for those who subscribe, but just of the first chapter or first week or 7 days, however you want to look at it, because it's 90 days. But there has been a piece of me that's wondered that I say, make the entire electronic or ebook version just open to drive up more tangible results as it applies to a following or list, and et cetera. And then we push for this other, booklet piece, transforming it from an ebook to a booklet that goes into the hands of, that new nurse when she's, starting off, or that he's just getting into school, or whatever that looks like.
Sure. And I would probably push for not giving it away for free always, because you want to have the perceived value of it as the price on the website. But I would probably give it away more often as a promo in exchange for send me an inspirational story from your rural situation, or when you go on a, like nurses do their trips and things like that to other countries, like send us a story, an Instagram story, and we'll send you a book. That way you're not giving it away for free, but in effect you are actually giving it away for free to a lot of people. So
yeah.
That idea, I like that idea for sure, because before any free copies that I gave for download was when I would speak at local high schools to high school students, but I think they're just not in the space that they need to be yet. They're going to figure a lot out, but doing more promos, like you said, and leveraging the followings that are there and saying, if you interface with me, then that gives more opportunity to, get something into your hands too. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, it's great. And so just first off, again, we commend you. Thank you. I mean, it's got to be a thankful and thankless job at times. You're dealing with people going through hard times, and I'm sure it's extremely, it feels really good, and it probably is really hard at times. So we thank you first and foremost for being a nurse. Thank you for continuing to doing what you do and trying to inspire other nurses. Please keep in touch. We will do what we can to help spread the word of this. And if you have any other additional questions or anything like that, please feel free to, like I said, I reached out to you on LinkedIn there. So
yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is a huge honor. Thank you again for taking a chance on, the nurse unicorn here, so to speak. And I appreciate even just, within this sphere, it's really good to be able to branch out and get these kind of nitty gritty practical steps of things, even though it seems maybe a little bit softer than maybe what you usually do, but this is really helpful and really tangible results. So, thanks for helping me kind of use this as a leveraging point, and even just to get some solid advice.
Absolutely. We're happy to help. And Antionette, I really appreciate you being on the show. So everybody check out visionarynurse.com. And for everybody listening, send in your information. We would like to have you on the show. Antionette, thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, Rich, there's another great show.
And when you add it all together with the other shows, you won't miss any strategies or new tactics on how to grow your online business.
So to make sure you don't miss anything, subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Rich, what player do you like?
Probably Stitcher.
All right.
How about you?
I'm an Apple podcast guy. I'm an Apple guy on that.
Yeah.
And we're growing right now. A listener asked us to add Google Play as a platform. So we just added that a couple weeks ago. We have Spotify, SoundCloud.
Nice. We're everywhere.
So subscribe on your favorite platform, and don't forget to rate and review us.
So we know what you think.
Yeah, rate how we're doing, review on what we have done, tell us topics you'd like us to cover, tell us if you think we're great and you are going to take over the world.
Subscribe, rate, and review.
It's the only way we'll know, and it keeps the shows coming. Thanks, everybody.